All right, hey again. All right, this is our other video that's going to tell us about the last two things, the last 2 days that we talked about. We're going to go over economic indicators and economic organizations. Okay. All right. You are going to see this cartoon soon and very soon. Cough, cough, hint, hint. Make sure you know it. All right, so this man is corporate America. All right, so think back to what corporate means. All right, that says free trade at last, free trade at last. Thank God Almighty we have free trade at last. All right, he's quoting Martin Luther King. He's putting his own spin on it. All right, in one hand, he's got a whip that says NAFTA. All right, aka the North American Free Trade Agreement. All right, in case you forgot, the 3 countries that are in North America are the United States, Canada, and Mexico. So us, people above us, and the people below us. All right, between the 3 of us, we don't have any tariffs. All right, so we import a lot of oil from Canada, and we also import a lot of oil from Saudi Arabia. We import the most from Canada because we don't have to pay an extra tax on top of what we're already paying for that 55-gallon barrel of oil. Okay, so we have the North American Free Trade Agreement in this hand. We have the World Trade Organization, the WTO, in this one with some broken shackles. All right, here's this poor little man over here that's a U.S. worker. Here's this poor little man over here that is a worker from abroad. All right, so we've got massive layoffs, vanishing worker rights over here, and then slave wages and no workers' rights on this side. All right, so think about who is actually benefiting from this free, quote-unquote, free trade. All right, who does it look like is benefiting from this? All right, so please make sure that you remember how this cartoon works. Okay, all right, here we go. Don't need to see that one. All right, so this is our business cycle. All right, we talked about this for the past couple of days. If you'll notice, it has a lot of ups and downs, okay? The business cycle is not determined by the government. The business cycle is just straight up how business works. Just like any other thing in life, you have your good days and your bad days. The economy has some good spells and it has some bad spells. Okay, so at the very bottom, when we hit rock bottom, well, not quite rock bottom, but when we hit, a rough time in our economy, that is a trough at the bottom. All right, and then once we hit that, the only direction that we can go is up. So we have an expansion for those. You want an expansion to be the longest amount of time possible. All right, at the top, we've got a peak. Once we do hit the top, if this will click for me. All right, and then, of course, we have a recession. All right, during expansions, people have got more money in their pocket. Businesses are open, got some pay raises. The opposite is true in a recession. A business that might close. You might get some layoffs. Remember, the difference between getting laid off and getting fired. Getting fired, you did something stupid at work, and they're like, look, you can't work here anymore, you got to go. All right, layoffs are when you did not do anything wrong as an employee. You were a great employee. However, your business cannot pay you a paycheck. All right. All right, so again, the largest trough in our nation's history was the Great Depression. It was brought on by a crash in the stock market, all right, in 1929, because people were buying a whole bunch of stuff on credit, and when the time came to cash in, nobody had enough money to make any of the payments. All right, so the stock market starts to fall, the banks are losing money because of the stock market, and then eventually people are losing money because of the bank. All right, it's just a vicious cycle. So people don't trust the bank anymore. Businesses have to close their doors. They can't afford to pay people anymore. So our unemployment rate rocketed up to like 25%. So 1 in every 4 people was walking around trying to find a job for years and years and years. All right, so to alleviate this, to kind of fix the economy after this happened, FDR, our president, who was president for a long behind time, all right, he puts a new deal in place, puts people to work, tries to pull the economy up by its bootstraps, and he decides that he's going to go with this philosophy from a man, John Keynes, and says that if we spend money as a government, we can eventually end the recession. So if we lower those reserve requirements, take money out of the Federal Reserve and put it into circulation, into the people's hands, they'll start spending more money, right, and our economy is going to start to pick up. Right, good on that. Great. All right, so there's 4 ways that we measure the economy. We got 4 tools to do that, okay? The first one is a gross domestic product. All right, this is just a measure of all of the goods and services that we put out in 1 year as a country. All right, so this is all the stuff that we made, all the services that we provided to everyone else. The next one is the unemployment rate. Pretty self-explanatory. It's just people who are actually looking for a job. All right, so right now we're sitting at about 9 or 10% unemployment as a country. We want to lower that down to 6.5%. All right, so this is only the people that are actually out walking the streets looking for a job. All right, the third way we can measure the economy is the Consumer Price Index. All right, this is just a long list of the changes in the average price level of goods and services. All right, and the last one is the cost or standard of living. So this measures the change in the average price level of goods and services, and allows for some substitutions. Okay, so instead of Pepsi, you could buy Coke, or instead of whole milk, you could buy skim milk, just random stuff like that. Okay. So those are the 4 tools. How do we fix the economy if it really sucks? All right, we have 2 types of policy that can help us fix the economy: monetary and fiscal. The only real difference between the 2 of these, both of their purposes are to fix the economy. They want to make sure that it's doing as well as possible for as long as possible. The only difference is who actually makes it. Okay, so please remember that. When we talk about monetary policy, the Fed and the banks make this. All right, so they only have control over these 3 things. They have control over interest rates, they have control over bank reserves, and they have control over the amount of money that gets physically printed or stamped out if we're talking about coins. Okay, so this is the only thing that they can actually help with. So again, the Fed is the government's bank and the bank's bank. All right, so that's where the banks get all their Krispy Kreme dollar bills. All right, and then it's the government's bank where the savings bonds are issued and where the government keeps their checking account. All right, this is the lady who runs it. All right, if the economy is not doing so hot, we have a loose policy, okay? If it's not doing well, we take money out of those reserves, all right? We lower the reserve requirement, we put it into circulation, into people's hands, and we lower the interest rates so they have more money in their pocket and more money to spend so that we can speed up the economy. Remember, if the economy is not doing well, we call this being in a recession. We want to get out of it as fast as possible, so we want to speed the economy up with our loose policy. All right, if the economy is doing well, like this, all right, we're in an expansion. All right, we have tight monetary policy. We want to save up money as much as we can because we know that if we're in expansion, eventually we're going to hit that peak and go back into a recession again. Okay, so we're going to raise the reserve requirements. We're going to take money out of people's hands, out of circulation, put it in the bank for a rainy day, and we're going to raise interest rates. People have less money in their pocket. They got to save some money and prepare for the recession that is to come. Okay. All right, so slowing and speeding, we talked about this. Please, people, do your absolute level best to make sure that you know what in the world this is, okay? So if we increase the interest rate, what's going to happen to our economy? All right, if you forget, like, I don't know the difference between slowing and speeding, that's okay, all right? We haven't had that much time to practice. However, think about if money is going into people's hands or if it is coming out of people's hands. So if we increase the interest rate that you've got to pay on your house, all right, are you going to have more money or less? Right? You have less money in your pocket because you have to pay more money on that interest on your house. Okay, so if you have less money in your pocket, we're trying to slow the economy down because you have less money to spend. Okay, for example, I'll put a couple more questions up about practice. All right, so fiscal policy, again, is determined by Congress and the president. They only have control over the amount the government spends and tax rates. People who do fiscal policy, Congress and the president, have got nothing to do with the bank, got nothing to do with the reserve requirements, can't take money out of circulation, can't touch it. All right, the only thing they can do is decide how much they're going to spend as a government and how much they want you to pay or how little they want you to pay in taxes. Okay? All right, so who designs the budget? That would be the president. All right, and who passes it / approves it? That would be Congress. All right, remember, appropriation bills are money bills, and appropriation bills start in the House of Representatives because they are closer to the people. Okay? All right. Let me see. I'll go over and see if we've got any more random questions to ask you. Right. So what can Congress do to speed up the economy if we're in a recession? They can lower taxes so you got more money in your pocket, so you'll spend more money. They'll spend more money as well. If the economy is doing well, we're doing good, we're on an expansion, we're trying to slow it down and have as much of an expansion as we possibly can. All right, we want to raise taxes and spend less government money. All right, good on that. Great, fab, wonderful. Okay, so the Fed is an economic organization. The government is one as well. All right, you want to make sure that we have a balanced budget. Okay, that's our goal. We want to make sure that the revenue, the money that's coming in, equals our expenditures, things that we spend money on. Okay, remember, a surplus is making more than you spend. If you see a surplus, it is going to be over here. Look at my mouse. It's going to be over here above the line. Okay, above the line. You're going to see that very soon as well. Maybe like on a, I don't know, make like a written response somewhere. Just saying. Okay. So A deficit is spending more than you make, all right? And debt is the total amount that you owe or the sum of all of your deficits put together, okay? So expenditures, there are two types. You have mandatory and discretionary, all right? Mandatory, you got to do it. You don't have a choice. You have to spend money on that stuff. Discretionary, all right? If I use discretion when I grade your test, I think about my choice and I'm like, yeah, I'll go ahead and give you this point. I'm going to write okay because it was kind of iffy, but I'm going to use my best judgment and I'm going to make a choice. All right, so discretionary, you can choose how much or how little you want to spend. All right, so we spend a total of 36 trillion, or 3.6 trillion, excuse me. All right, so remember, we've got three types of taxes. We've got progressive, proportional, and regressive. All right, progressive means that the more money you make, the more taxes you have to pay. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to pay all those taxes. If you're rich, you might get a tax break, which some people think is not fair. It just depends on how you feel about it. But a progressive tax means that if you make $35,000, you are going to pay maybe like 22% in federal taxes. If you make $100,000, you're probably going to pay somewhere around 36% in taxes. So the more money you make, the more taxes you pay. Proportional tax is the same percentage for everyone, and a regressive tax is also the same percentage for everyone. Okay, and it falls most heavily on the poor. All right, so when you go to Walmart and you are going to buy groceries, you have to pay 6.75% in taxes on those groceries, no matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter. All right, so let's say that somebody makes $5,000 a month and they go to the grocery store and buys a whole bunch of groceries, and then somebody behind them in line makes $10,000 a month. That sales tax is going to hurt the person that makes only $5,000 a lot more than it's going to hurt the person who makes $10,000. Okay, so please remember that. All right. All right, I think we're good on this. I hope so. If you've got questions, please text me. All right, I'm sorry that I had a meeting today. Could not get out of it. I did try. All right, remember the stock market, you buy shares, and this is not for sale, it's for sale, S-A-L-E. All right, you buy shares in a company, and in exchange, they give you back a percentage of their profits. Okay, usually monthly, sometimes you only get it yearly, just depends. All right, so just because one business is not doing so hot one day does not mean that the whole entire stock market is not doing well. All right, so remember the Dow and the S&P are indicators to tell us how the stock market is doing that particular day. All right, so good to go on this. Wall Street is where all of our stock markets are located in the in the United States. All right, remember labor unions, their purpose is to have people who do the same thing, all right, organizations, to protect their rights and their interests. Okay, so collective bargaining is how we do this, and if collective bargaining fails, we can go on strike, refuse to work. We can have a lockout where employees literally lock the door on you. You can have mediation, where you sit down and compromise, or you can have arbitration, all right, where a third party comes in and helps you compromise. Okay, this has been a review video.